Now to verify that our VPN actually works, I'm going to switch to my machine RTS Serve 1. Everything we just set up was on RTS-DC1. So we're going to attempt to connect from RTS Serve 1, and it's just going to act as our VPN client. Now to do that, and it's the same if you're on Windows 10, you can go to Control Panel, and if you open the Network and Sharing Center, in the Network and Sharing Center, there is an option to set up a new connection or network. Well, I'm going to click that and connect to a workplace. I'm just going to go to Next, and we are choosing a VPN, not a dial-up. That would require a modem, and you'd have to have like a phone number defined. So we're choosing a VPN. Now, my environment is still isolated, so it's not directly connected to the internet because we run many services that we wouldn't want our computers on our actual network to be able to connect to. So because this does not detect an internet connection, you'll always get this. Do you want to set up an internet connection before you continue? We'll say, no, we don't want to do that. So I'm going to say I'll set up an internet connection later. Now it says, what machine do you want to connect to? Now you can use the IP address or you could use a computer name. I'm just going to do rts-dc1.rtsnetworking.com. And you can name this whatever you want, but I'm just going to name it RTS VPN connection, and I'm going to click Create. Now, the one weird thing about this, there are a lot of properties that you need to define, possibly define, that were not in that list. If I go to my network connection and click on my network connection, you'll see the RTS VPN connection shows up, and you could actually click and just connect. But before you try to connect, there are some things we want to check first. So what I'm going to do is go to Change Adapter Settings, and this shows you all your network adapters, including your VPN connection. So you'll see the RTS VPN connection. Well, I'm just going to right-click that and go to Properties. You'll see that's the name we're connecting to. So name or IP address, either one is fine. On the Options tab, we don't really care about this, but if I want to say idle before hanging up, you could specify like a certain amount of minutes, but we're not interested in that. Do you want your credentials to be saved? On the security, this is what we care about. We talked about the authentication protocols, point-to-point tunneling protocol, PPTP, the layer 2, SSTP, and IKE. Well, in the client, you could choose any of those, but you really should choose none. Now, an interesting thing, notice the type of VPN is automatic. If I pull this down, it actually says this IKE v2. That means the way this works is it tries to use the strongest protocol first. If your VPN server does not respond, it then uses the next strongest, which would be SSTP. If that does not work, it then tries layer 2. If that does not work, it then tries the point-to-point. So if you leave it on automatic, you know it's going to work. It's going to start at the strongest and work backwards. The advantage of that mainly, if I reconfigure the server to use a different protocol, I don't have to try to reconfigure the VPN clients. So generally, you'd leave this on automatic. The data encryption just depends on your preference. Require, optional, maximum. The thing we have to define, authentication protocols are not selected when you create the VPN client. It's kind of weird because you have to have one. It will not work without it. I'm just going to choose Allow these protocols, and I'm just using MS Chat version 2. The PAP and SHAP are both vendor neutral, but they both allow passwords and clear text, so we're not using those. If you were using multi-factor authentication, you would choose this EAP. So it would combine EAP for like a smart card with your MS Chat version 2. But I'm not doing that. I'm just going to choose MS Chat v2. On the networking side, I could set a static IP address in my client. So if I go to IP version 4, there is an option here to use the following address, and you could type in a static address in the VPN client. If you were to do that, you have an IP address on your computer that connects to the internet. The VPN client would use the address you typed in here to access resources inside your network. Now, I don't want to do that. Instead, I created that static address pool on the server, so the server is going to assign the address. So we're going to leave this on obtain an IP automatically, and I'm going to do the same for DNS, obtain automatically. And we'll just click OK. Now, the sharing, there's nothing we do here. But if I wanted other computers to be able to share this connection to connect to the internet, this has nothing to do with a VPN. This is a holdover from the days of true dial-up, where one computer had an internet connection and you let other computers connect to and through that computer to access the internet. That really has nothing to do with our VPN. So we never really even go to that sharing tab. But I'm just going to click OK because we did define our authentication protocol. So we'll say OK for that. Now, this should actually work. Now, I can actually just double click this and it's going to bring up my client. We're going to connect and it's going to ask me for my username. And I'm just connecting as my domain administrator. That quick, it's actually connected. Now, I can see it says connected. I can also see the icon is blue, so we know it actually worked. Now I'm going to switch back to my VPN server, which is actually RTS DC1. And I'm going to go back to the routing and remote access. Well, this remote access client was 0. I'm going to refresh the view now. And now it says I have 1 client. What's neat about this, I can see how long I've been connected. What I'm going to do is double click that. And I can actually see the username that connected as administrator. I can see how many bytes have been sent and received. I can also see the IP address is 192.168.1.11. So I can view all the information about currently connected clients through this remote access client that shows up here in my routing and remote access. I could even disconnect the client if for some reason I just wanted to end their session. Pretty powerful. Now I'm going to go back to my client machine for one moment. A neat thing you can see, now I say client machine because this is our VPN client, but a neat thing you can view. I'm just going to go to PowerShell, or you can use the command prompt. But if you were to type ipconfig/all, I can see RTS serve 1. I see the IP address of RTS serve 1. But because the VPN is connected, you get this PPP, stands for point-to-point adapter. But you get this PPP adapter that shows up, and I can see the IPv4 address, 192.168.1.11. I can see the DNS server address that was defined, so we know this is actually working. Now for the VPN, if I were just to go back to my VPN client and click on it and disconnect, if I run ipconfig/all again, so we'll just hit enter and run that, you'll notice, so we ran it here, the PPP adapter is just completely gone when you disconnect your VPN client. So that IP configuration only is present while the VPN is actually connected. So pretty neat configuration and pretty straightforward to actually set up. Now that brings up another question. How do I get the VPN client configured? Well, I'm certainly not going to go to every computer and go through Network and Sharing Center on all my clients and type in the VPN. So a neat way to get it configured is through group policy. I'm going to go back to my domain controller. And I'm going to go to Server Manager, and I'm just going to pull up Group Policy Management. I'm also going to pull up Active Directory users and computers as well. Now, to just create a scenario, let's say what we have is a group of users. If you are a member of this group, I want you to be able to connect through the VPN. So our standard operating procedure may be that we have a group named VPN users. So I'm going to create a new group. And I'm just going to name it VPN-users. If you need to connect through the VPN, we make you a member of that group. Now I'm going to go back to group policy, and I'm going to create a new group policy object, and I'm going to link it to my domain. Create a GPL in the domain and link it here. And I'm just going to name it VPN policy. Well, I'm just going to right click and edit this policy. And under my user configuration, I'm going to go to Preferences, Control Panel Settings, and there is Network Options. So I'm just going to right click that and go to New. You'll see VPN connection is in the list. Now it says, well, what do you want to name the connection? I'm just going to call it RTS-VPN. Whatever you want to name it. The IP address it connects to, I'm just going to make up a bogus address for this one. 21.1.10, we'll say. You define all the other options. So I can go to options, I can go to security, I can select my MS Chat version 2 we talked about earlier. You can go to networking and select your tunnel protocol. So just like you're configuring the client on the local machine. Well, now if I go to the common tab, I have this item level targeting. So what I'm going to do here is just go to targeting. I'm going to go to new item. Security group is in this list. So I'm going to go to security group and I'm just going to browse and I'm going to choose that VPN users group. So that's our VPN users and OK. Now, if you are a member of this group, this VPN client is automatically going to be deployed to your computer. It's just going to show up. Pretty fascinating. Take a quick example of this. I'm just going to OK this. And I'm going to go to Active Directory, back to that group. And I'm going to make my administrator account a member of this group. So I'm going to go to VPN users, members. And I'm just going to type AD and check names. And you'll see administrator. To verify that works, I'm just going to go back to RTS-serve1. So I have the RTS VPN connection, the entire thing. All I'm going to do is log off and log back in. So I'm just going to sign out just to make sure it processes this group membership change. And now I'm just going to sign back in with my domain administrator. Now, if I go back to my network connections, and I know my view's not in full screen, but we can still see. That's the RTS-VPN. That's the name I defined in group policy. So because my user account is a member of that group, this VPN was automatically deployed. So what we have in place right now simplifies this configuration so much that if I were to get a call, if I'm on the help desk and somebody says, Bob Ross needs VPN access, I can simply make Bob a member of the group and we would be done. That's all that's required. Pretty fascinating. But that's our look through the VPN configuration.